Hi, if you want to watch exclusive content with hot girls that you won't watch on YouTube, namely where Naruto roasts Kushina and Mikoto and many other hot girls without restrictions, then visit my Boosty channel at the link in the description. Strike. Another one. The setting sun bathed Konoha in crimson light. The Makiwara bent after each swing of the young shinobi. A cool wind caressed the strands of milky yellow hair, but beads of sweat still appeared on his forehead from the boy's efforts. Shina-chan, to the table. A female voice came from the house in the courtyard of which a training session to improve taijutsu skills was taking place. If you don't hurry, Hanami will gobble up your portion too. I'm coming, Mom! The teenager answered in a broken voice, continuing to beat the log with his fists. The rhythmic movements of his hands hit sharply, but only half-heartedly. If Shinichika Uzumaki had used all of it, the Makiwara could have crossed the forest and desert of Suna at the speed of light. He got his strength from his mother, who at that moment was humming a children's song and setting the table. Shinichika swung and was about to attack for the final time, but his fist flew through the tree, causing the young man's body to move forward due to the miss. The blonde immediately struck again and hit. His lips involuntarily parted, and it seemed to him that his hands ceased to be material for a second. I certainly couldn't miss. His mother's voice came from the veranda of the house, more insistently, interrupting his thoughts about what had happened, so Shinichika had to quickly walk to dinner. The table was set luxuriously. In 16 years, Sakura had finally learned to cook. And not just edible, but truly delicious. What can you say? Being the keeper of the family hearth, the kunoichi succeeded in many things. She managed to combine the difficult position of director at the hospital with raising children who grew up wonderful to the delight of their parents, maintaining the well-being of the family and fulfilling her marital duty. In the evenings, when the seventh stayed late at the Hokage's office, she put the children to bed early and went to Naruto to help sort out the paperwork, and simply to morally support her husband. In this, Sakura Uzumaki was inimitable. How are my beloved children? The door swung open, letting a tall blonde man into the hallway, his face lit up by a wide smile. Sakura immediately recognized the degree of her husband's fatigue, which he so skillfully hid from the children. The best in everything, in business and in battle, in relationships with people and undoubtedly, in the role of father and husband. Papa! Little Hanami jumped up from her chair and ran straight into Naruto's cozy embrace. Her blue eyes sparkled with great love for her father. The Hokage threw his daughter into the air and, having caught her, immediately hugged her. It's a bit early today, Dad. The eldest child of the Uzumaki family had already taken his place at the table. The grueling workouts have whetted my appetite. Shina-chan. Without letting go of his daughter, Naruto approached his son and ruffled the young man's soft hair. You even came before me. It's dinner time, dears. Sakura's voice took on a commanding tone. The entire Uzumaki family knew that they had to listen to their mother, because no one wanted to meet her devilishly creepy side. Of course. Naruto sat Hanami down on her chair, higher than everyone else's, and walked up to Sakura. This was all the Haruno-born girl had been expecting. The man's fingertips gently touched her fair, smooth cheek, moving further and burying themselves in her shock of soft pink hair. Then, leaning slightly, he softly kissed his wife on the lips. I miss you, my sensitive one. He waited for the cherished kiss, like the one that is left for goodbye in the morning and is so eagerly received in the evening. And the magical moment with the tummy, of course. How was our baby? Naruto squatted down, pressing his cheek to Sakura's stomach. Uzumaki laughed, running her fingers through her lover's hair. He decided that my ribs were Makiwara. A real shinobi will be born. The man stood up, kissed his wife again and, interrupting the sweet moment, turned to the children. Shinichika looked at his parents with a beaming smile, resting his chin on his hands, while Hanami made a displeased face. Bah! The younger Uzumaki drawled, sticking out her tongue in disgust. Hanami, stop it! Sakura sat down at the table, following her husband's example, then, narrowing her eyes slyly, looked her daughter in the eyes. Do you think you won't have to kiss Inogen? The little girl's face instantly merged with the color of her soft pink hair, which she inherited from her mother, and her eyes nervously darted around the kitchen interior. Shinichika laughed heartily. You did it cleverly, Mom. Shina-chan, I didn't expect such betrayal from you. Hanami pouted and started sniffling. Usually this technique worked on her father, and this time was no exception. Enjoy! Naruto exclaimed, and the family immediately began to eat. While Uzumaki praised Sakura's exceptional masterpiece, as he called it, the younger Uzumaki thought, "It couldn't have just been my imagination. I definitely saw the fist fly through the log." Shina-chan? His father's voice dispelled his thoughts. Shinichika looked up from his plate to find 3 pairs of eyes looking at him questioningly. Is everything okay? The young man bit his lip and, after a slight hesitation, decided, I was perfecting my taijutsu tonight. Then my mother called me for dinner. Naruto put his utensils down, listening attentively, even nodding his head occasionally. When I delivered the final blow to the Makiwara, my fist passed through it as if it were intangible. It seemed to me that I no longer felt my hand. It became transparent. Ah, Sakura sighed worriedly, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. How many times have I told you not to train for so long, Sunshine? You're already seeing things from overexertion. Is this the first time this has happened? Naruto frowned, looking at Shinichika with a puzzled expression. Sakura knew that look, it could very well be a serious problem. And it wasn't because her son was tired. The mother's heart was filled with anxiety. No, I haven't noticed anything like that before, the young man replied. His hands shot up in a conciliatory gesture. But I feel fine. Don't worry, Mom. Be sure to tell me if it happens again. We've seen so much. Naruto looked at Sakura. Memories of the past, when they were Team 7, flashed through his mind. And if you think about it, all sorts of things have happened. Any little thing could be the beginning of a very big problem. Especially if this problem was somehow connected with their son. Uzumaki responded with a gentle look of green eyes, as if to say, together we can cope with anything. And the nascent hurricane in Naruto's soul immediately calmed down. Okay, I'll tell you right away if this happens again. It's time to get up, eh? The little demon flew into her older brother's room with a crash, her bare feet stomping on the parquet. Running to the window, the girl forcefully pulled the curtains apart. Hanami, Shinichika said sleepily, pulling the blanket up to the top of his head. The sun's rays mercilessly hit his green eyes. Get up right now. Mom is calling you for breakfast. Quickly! Shouting throughout the house, the girl left the room, not forgetting to slam the door behind her. Shinichika wheezed wearily, sitting up in bed. Sleep would not come. Such cries would raise a dead man from the grave, let alone him. From below came the voices of his parents, the clatter of dishes, and his sister's loud cries. Indeed, he needed to get up. Yesterday, the blonde was planning to train in the forest, but not to develop techniques. It seemed to him that the incident with dematerialization would repeat itself during the use of one of the techniques. Moreover, he needed to be at the main gate of the village in 2 hours. Lee-sensei did not like to wait. Sakura knocked softly, opening the door to her son's room. He was already tying the red Konoha protector on the back of his head, and as soon as he noticed his mother, an angelic smile immediately appeared on his face. Morning, Mom. Good morning. Haruno smoothly crossed the bedroom, sat down on the edge of the bed and placed her sweaty hand on the child's shoulder. How are you feeling? Are you still worried about yesterday? Shinichika chuckled. I want to practice after breakfast. If I really didn't imagine it, it will happen again anyway. Sooner or later. Don't worry, Mom, I'll head straight to the hospital to see you or Dad. Sakura just nodded, smiled meekly, ruffled her son's blonde hair and headed to the kitchen. He followed her. Breakfast was, as usual, silent, if you don't count Hanami's delighted chatter about the son of the Yamanaka family. Naruto occasionally nodded in support of his daughter, but mostly nodded off. Shinichika quickly stuffed the contents of his plate into his mouth, got up from the table, kissed his mother and sister on the cheek, and ran into the hallway to put on his shoes. Leaving already? Naruto woke up from his half-sleep. His light eyebrows shot up, surprised by his son's abruptness. Yes. The young man fastened the leather straps of his sandals. With a wave of his hand, Shinichika flew out of the house. See you later. The weather was beautiful. The green leaves rustled in the warm wind, caressing the ear. The smell of fresh ramen from Ichiraka hung in the air. The little shinobi hurried to the academy, laughing loudly. Young Uzumaki quickly crossed the edge of the village, coming out to the clearing where he usually trained. He did not want to linger, he was too worried about what happened the day before. Shadow clone technique. The hands formed a seal. The same boy appeared next to him. The actions were honed to the limit. 4 palms formed a sphere. The clone evaporated. Shinichika's target was a tree. Raisin Gan. The wood shattered into pieces. A scorched hole gaped in the wood. There it is. The young man saw the swaying grass through his hands. His vision went dark. The child's body fell senseless to the ground. So, what's up, Sasuke-kun? A beautiful blonde with silky hair below her waist devoured another ball of dango, turning to her friend sitting opposite. The latter timidly tucked a lock of pink hair behind her ear, seeming to think about something for a second, and began. He went off to wander the world, to atone for his sins. Ino frowned, swallowing. I was surprised they let him out at all. And how is he going to atone for everything he's done? Feed cats in the forest and accompany old people to the next village? Sakura reacted sharply to her friend's laughter. You can't mock his desire to cleanse his soul, Ino. Yes. The kunoichi's eyes filled with sadness, looking somewhere into the void. Sasuke has done a lot of things, but everyone has the right to a second chance. The blonde folded her hands in her lap, softening. Sasuke-kun is undoubtedly a handsome man. But Sakura. In this situation, I'm more concerned about what you're going to do. Wait for him to come back again and be ignored by him? You are too straightforward. I will wait for any manifestation of warmth from him. Their wonderful farewell at the main gates of Konoha surfaced in the kunoichi's memory. Maybe next time. And that gentle poke in the forehead. Or had she imagined it, and that warm gesture was only the first step on the path to redemption? Pushing that thought aside, Sakura angrily pulled the dango ball off the skewer. Have you ever thought about looking around and seeing someone other than this Uchiha? After the war, many worthy candidates emerged. Such as Kiba, Shino, Shikamaru, Choji, Naruto. Bending her fingers, she said the last name ingratiatingly, narrowing her eyes. But Ino's expression suddenly changed, raising her eyebrows, looking somewhere into the distance, past her friend. Naruto? Sakura-chan. A short-haired blonde man flew into the restaurant, attracting the attention of all the visitors, including the 2 kunoichi. The guy bent over, resting his hands on his knees, catching his breath. What happened? Sakura jumped up from the table. Uzumaki looked worried, and judging by his shortness of breath, he had been running very fast. Please, follow me immediately. We can't do without your help. Ino exchanged glances with Sakura and nodded. Go, I'll pay. A moment later, the teammates were crossing the streets of their home village. Sakura realized from the direction that the blonde was leading her beyond the residential area to the training fields. If this is another one of your stupidities, I'll strangle you. Naruto spoke only when they were getting closer to the place. The running slowed down. I was going to read the shinobi history in the forest, and I noticed this. The finger pointed into the distance, and Sakura, focusing her gaze, saw a small spot. Is this a person? A child, to be more precise. From the Uzumaki clan. Naruto didn't respond to Sakura's questioning look. The girl sped up and reached the place where the unconscious body lay faster than him. Falling to her knees, Haruno checked his pulse, then immediately placed her hands on the boy's stomach, beginning the healing process. The blonde sat down next to him. I don't think he's more than 14. Why does he have my clan's crest on his shirt? Look! A protector with the Konoha emblem. If there was a child from the Uzumaki clan in Konoha, then not only I would know about it, but you too. Naruto was clearly not amused by the current situation. Yes. Sakura frowned thoughtfully. But neither you nor I know who he is. Shinichika opened his eyes and immediately squinted, adapting to the white light cutting into his pupils from the inside. There was no end or edge to this place. Only a door in the space reminiscent of the one that led to the Uzumaki family's hallway. An inner anxiety made him grab the kunai that was safely in his belt pouch. Whatever it was, the young man didn't understand a damn thing. His hand hesitantly lay on the door handle, pressing down, letting the blonde into the hallway. The same hallway at home that he returned to every evening after missions. Is there anyone? Shinichika took off his sandals. In any case, he needed to be on the safe side, in case Sakura came out and saw him walking around the house with shoes on. Mom? Dad? Hanami? Shinichika. Hearing an unfamiliar voice, the young man turned sharply towards the living room, holding a kunai in front of him. Near the light leather-covered chair stood a tall man with the same milky yellow hair as the eldest son of the Uzumaki family. He smiled blissfully, squinting his eyes, shining with kindness and light. In front of Shinichika stood the fourth Hokage. Grandpa Minato? Where are you from? The young boy was amazed. Grandpa, and in their living room. His father had told him a lot about him, and Shinichika knew very well that he had taken most of his grandfather's character. But he had died a long time ago. The young man had only seen him in photographs. And on the Hokage rock. Minato closed the distance between them and hugged his grandson tightly, whose arms fell limply, releasing their weapons. But how? You died. That's right. The fourth straightened up. You're not in the real world right now either. The word just couldn't be voiced, but the boy swallowed, even though there was a lump in his throat, and whispered barely audibly. Died? The grandfather laughed, hastening to ease his grandson's anxiety. No, not at all. Don't worry. Better sit down. Shinichika wanted to find out what was going on as soon as possible, so he immediately sat down on the sofa, looking at the fourth with a searching gaze. Minato slowly sat down in the chair opposite him. What I'm about to tell you may shock you, but I hope you'll understand everything correctly. And the strength of Sakura's spirit and you won't give way to anxiety. Shinichika didn't answer, he just listened, anticipating his grandfather's next words. Every situation has different outcomes. Events can develop in different ways, but this is only known in the future, when you get the final result. Your father and mother in the past exist separately, but in your time they built a wonderful family together. But for them, the past, this is not the future, but only one of the possible developments. Besides this, there are others. Your world exists only as long as such an outcome is possible, as long as there are prospects for this. Namikaze wrinkled his forehead, not knowing how to continue. So the world where Mom and Dad are together, and Hanami and I are here, is just an alternate reality. Tension was clearly heard in Shinichika's voice. But this phrase really helped Fourth continue. Your reality has started to disappear, as you have already noticed. It means that something is happening in the past. Something that will not allow your parents to create your family in the future. So, will just disappear? Now you are in non-existence, between life and death. The environment around you is created from your personal memories. The thought, I disappeared, flashed through Shinichika's mind. But Minato seemed to hear it. You are crossing a time-space. If I am not mistaken, you will wake up in the time where your parents are before the beginning of your family history. But apparently, something is already preventing Sakura from marrying Naruto. Strangely enough, Minato spoke with restraint, measuredly, as if he was sure that in the end everything would be fine. The young man adopted the fourth's calm and decisively asked, I have to fix everything. Right. True. But remember, none of them will understand where you came from. Try not to let slip about the events that are happening in your reality. I understand. Thank you, Grandpa. See you later, Shinichika Uzumaki. The last thing he saw was the fourth's radiant smile, which made him feel more comfortable than ever. Young Uzumaki opened his eyes. It smelled of medicine and flowers left by an unknown person on the bedside table. The beeping of the cardiograph cut into his hearing. The room was empty and hot, although the open window let in gusts of cool wind. Shinichika felt something was missing from his head. His hand unconsciously reached for his forehead. His forehead protector was missing. Apparently, they doubted my belonging to the shinobi of the village, flashed through the blonde's head. The creaking of the door caught his attention. His mother entered the room. Young, but just as beautiful, with eyes full of determination and tenderness. Her short hair still softly framed her round, kind face. The girl's eyebrows shot up, and the next moment Sakura disappeared behind the door of the room. She returned not alone. The fifth Hokage came in after Haruno. Shinichika was amazed, It was so unusual to see such familiar people so young. "Hello? My name is Sakura, and I am your attending physician. The indicators are normal, but it would help me a lot if you told me the last thing you remember before you woke up here." A warm smile appeared on the young face. It would seem that Shinichika had seen his mother that morning, but only now realized how much he missed that smile. "I don't remember anything," the young man croaked, sitting up in bed. He had to lie to his mother. She would have given him a hard time if she'd found out he was lying to her face. "It's like my memory was erased." "You don't even remember the name?" Haruno crossed her arms over her chest, puzzled. "No, nothing at all." "Sakura," Tsunade said, moving closer to the bed. "Could you please leave us?" The girl was surprised, but did not show it, fulfilling her mentor's request. "Of course." The tension in the room grew. The woman looked searchingly into the green eyes, nervously tapping her nails on the wall. Shinichika made an innocent, suffering face, as if to say, "I have nothing to do with it, and I don't know anything." "If you don't remember your name..." Senju paused, reaching into the pocket of her snow-white medical coat, pulling something out. "Then how do you explain it?" She was holding a picture of his family. Him in his father's arms and Hanami in his mother's. The same picture Shinichika kept in a hidden pocket inside his forehead protector. Tsunade knew exactly who was in the picture. It was getting dark. The sunset today was a particularly blood-red shade. The sun was pouring a heavy light into the office. The seventh Hokage was poring over a pile of papers, going through mission reports for the past month. "Damn!" Naruto rubbed his eyes tiredly and yawned, returning to his routine. The thought of what had happened the day before did not give him any peace, pressing with a leaden weight on his parental heart. Shikamaru entered the office. Nara had long since stopped standing on ceremony and knocked only when Sakura showed up to see the Hokage. Who knows what's going on there? The advisor thought. And Naruto considered unnecessary, foreplay, inappropriate after everything they had been through together. Nara swaggered to the chair, plopping down into it, exhausted. His brown eyes fixed on his comrade. Tired? No, in general. The blond man stapled several sheets of paper, hid them in a folder, and leaned back in his chair, rubbing his neck with his hands. My eyes hurt terribly from all these reports, Databayo. I can't wait to finish. Let me help you. Shikamaru wanted to get up, but Naruto stopped him. Go home, you've done enough. It's Shikadai's birthday today, if my memory serves me right, the man said with a smile. Yes, but he threw a party at home, and it's unlikely that his father's presence will please him. There was irony in his voice. Go anyway. Shina-chan would never forgive my absence, even if he celebrated with friends. Hanami would be forever disappointed if something like that happened. Give Shikadai my congratulations. Speaking about the children, Naruto realized that he would not last longer than an hour. He would rush home, to his native environment, where his loving family was waiting for him. Then see you tomorrow. The advisor stood up and was about to leave the Hokage's office, when suddenly the rapid sound of heels was heard from the corridor. The door swung open 180 degrees, leaving a mark from the iron handle on the sky-blue painted wall. Sakura flew into the room, causing Naruto to immediately jump up from his seat. Something had happened. His wife's face was gone. Her already pale skin was now comparable to a crystal-white medical gown. Her eyes were red from crying, and cracks appeared on her swollen lips. Did you see Shinichika after breakfast? She asked. Naruto closed the distance like a bullet, wrapping his arms around Uzumaki's shoulders. The anxiety was growing at an incredible rate. Goosebumps ran across the man's body. No. What happened? The last sparks of hope faded in the green eyes. The kunoichi collapsed into her husband's arms, helplessly clutching her beloved neck. Her gaze was clouded by a murky veil of tears. Sakura. Naruto hugged the woman to his chest, gently stroking her pink hair with a trembling palm. His heart had a premonition of something wrong. Please tell me what's wrong with our son? Shina-chan is missing, she sobbed. Isn't he at Shikadai's birthday party? Shikamaru interjected. Oddly enough, the state of his friends was passed on to him. Although the man was, in essence, always reasonable and quite cold-blooded, he did not like to make hasty conclusions. No. Sakura shook her head, wheezing through her tears, slightly moving away from Naruto's chest. He promised me that he would stop by to see any of us after training. When I didn't see him at the clinic, I thought that Shina-chan had headed to you after all, and about half an hour ago I met Lee. He said that Shinichika didn't show up for the team's general meeting. None of the guys saw him. Nara rubbed his beard tensely. Our son is not weak, we will definitely find him. Please don't worry so much, we are expecting a child. Naruto reassured her, swaying from side to side. The woman gradually calmed down thanks to her husband's support. Next to him, she became so soft, homely, even weak, in a sense, leaning on a strong shoulder. Naruto always solved any problems without hesitation, never giving Sakura a reason to worry. But this incident changed everything. As if some switch inside clicked, returning the former girl with a bold look and a firm fist. I'll find him! Uzumaki resolutely pulled away from her husband. With one movement, she wiped the wet streaks from her face. Merciless rage swallowed up her anxiety. Whoever it was who harmed my son, he will pay for it! Her eyes were burning with fire, her fists were clenched, and her long nails were painfully digging into the soft skin of her hands. Naruto hurried to stop Sakura's zeal. We have a little daughter, and you are 5 months pregnant. Go home and trust me. I promise you, everything will be fine. The man touched her pale cheek, which was still damp. I can't dump everything on you this time, Naruto. You're the Hokage, after all, and you can't just leave the village unattended. I'll go and handle it, you know that. Sakura. The blonde raised his voice. You're pregnant. And we don't know what happened to our son, and who's to blame for this. I can't risk the lives of 2 people dear to me and then sit and do nothing. Please, go home and don't tell Hanami anything about what happened. I'll find him, I swear to you. Okay. The woman exhaled loudly, calming her ardor. A pale hand covered her husband's palm. Shikamaru only needed one look from those blue eyes to understand that he needed to immediately assemble a squad. Shinichika stared at Tsunade. The woman waited patiently for an answer to her question, continuing to tap her maroon nails on the wall. The photograph was also comfortably positioned between her fingers. Well, I screwed up. The teenager joked, scratching the back of his light head, but his expression quickly changed, unable to withstand Fifth's heavy gaze. I'll tell you everything you want to know, Granny, but first make sure no one hears us. Tsunade's eyes flashed with fury. I hope you have the right to call me that, young man. The woman's hands quickly made a seal. Fifth moved the chair closer to the hospital bed and sat down, crossing her legs. I'm listening to you carefully. After briefly considering how best to present everything, Uzumaki extended his hand to the woman. A photograph, please. The teacher returned the confiscated item, which allowed Shinichika to begin. This, the blonde pointed at the photo, Uzumaki Naruto and Uzumaki Sakura are my parents. And this girl with pink hair is my sister. Now I am 13 years old. I am a genin of the Leaf Village in Lee Sensei's team. My father is the 7th Hokage, my mother is the director of a children's psychiatric hospital, and my sister is still a student at the academy, not yet grown up to be a genin. The last words involuntarily sounded with tenderness. Shinichika didn't even imagine how many days he would have to spend in this time. Senju's eyebrows rose higher than usual. Continue. In my free time, I master medical techniques under your guidance. When I was a child, you even gave me a plush Katsuya. That's how warm our relationship was in the future. He added. Answer the main question. Tsunade leaned forward, narrowing her eyes. How did you get here? Oh, you definitely won't believe me. I saw my grandfather. The 4th? The boy nodded in response. I exist only in the perspective of an alternative reality. If my parents' paths do not come together, our family and the universe I know will simply disappear. The 5th was amazed. How easily the child spoke of such a thing, as if it were a trifle to disappear. But Shinichika was sure that it would not happen. I don't understand anything. The woman's head was boiling from the amount of shocking information. She had never seen anything like this in her life. If you looked closely, the boy really did look like people she knew well, the same habits of Naruto, including the stupid habit of calling her Granny, and that fire in his green eyes, the frightening calm and the external features of the 4th. who, logically, was the boy's grandfather. I don't understand. How did you go through time? How did you meet essentially the dead? Shinichika shrugged calmly. Grandfather didn't tell me about this. But I'm sure we'll find out. I see. Tsunade exhaled loudly, rising from her chair. Well then. In order to back up your story with facts, in addition to this photograph, we need to conduct a DNA test. Oh! The blonde screamed as Tsunade shamelessly pulled a hair from the top of his head. In the future you will be much more polite. I still don't believe you, boy. By the way, what's your name? Shinichiku, he replied. It was so strange to meet the mentor again. My gaze caught on the bouquet standing by the window, and curiosity prompted me to ask a question. Who brought these flowers? Your father. Let's go, Shinichiku Uzumaki. Tsunade grinned ironically in response. Sakura sat at the head doctor's desk, twirling a strand of pink hair around her finger. What an interesting boy, she thought out loud. And he's an Uzumaki, too. The door opened slightly after a short, impatient knock. A blonde head peeked out from behind the doorframe. Oh, Sakura-chan. The young man entered the office, sitting down opposite his friend. Where is Grandma? I think he's interrogating the mysterious boy in the ward. He's unlucky. The girl laughed. Do you know anything about him yet? Naruto's eyes were filled with undisguised interest. The guy even moved a little closer. Well, a pink eyebrow crept up. From what he said, he has partial amnesia, but the indicators are normal. There are no injuries or internal violations of the integrity of the body. An ordinary average teenager. That's all we managed to find out. The information was passed on to Kakashi-sensei, and he has already given feedback. Not a single Konoha resident in this boy's age category fits the description. Where he got the bandage and why there is the Uzumaki clan crest on his clothes, it still remains a mystery. But maybe Tsunade-sama will find out something? Naruto nodded thoughtfully. Let's wait until his memory is restored, Dadabayo. Sakura laughed, touched by Naruto's childish interest. You brought him flowers. Yes, the blonde blushed, scratching the back of his head. What if he is my close relative, Sakura-chan? We need to establish contact in advance. I hope that he's just an ordinary boy and won't cause any unnecessary problems, the kunoichi concluded. 99.8% similarity. I told you so! The teenager victoriously punched the air, looking defiantly at Fifth, who was, to put it mildly, stunned. It just didn't fit into my head how a child from the future ended up in their time. The puzzle didn't fit. Well then. Tsunade turned off the DNA sequencer, which was making an annoying monotonous squeak that was hitting her ears, and looked into two satisfied emeralds that were so reminiscent of her successor's eyes. Now I can trust you. I can't spread what you told me in the ward under any circumstances. Only I saw the photograph, but the sixth must know. Okay. The boy nodded in agreement. I'll go to him right now. Only. The woman raised her eyebrows questioningly. Give me back my protector, please! The old grandfather clock loudly struck 8. But Sakura did not open her eyes. With her head comfortably resting on her hands, the girl dozed off while waiting for her mentor, not even realizing that at that moment a pair of blue eyes were staring at her. Much water had flowed under the bridge since Naruto, still a student at the academy, fell in love with this angelic, at first glance, girl, who was hiding a demonic nature and a complex character inside. But this never scared him. He loved with all his heart her delicate porcelain skin, fluffy eyelashes and slightly upturned nose. Small, clearly defined lips beckoned to touch them. But Naruto would never allow himself to do this. After all, there was never a place for him in the heart of his beloved. Sasuke-kun. Don't go, I beg you. Sakura whispered pitifully through her sleep. Fell asleep. The blonde took off his windbreaker, carefully covering his fragile shoulders, and returned to the chair. He kept his promise. Sasuke was on Konoha's side again, even though he hadn't appeared in the village for over a month. Sakura had once again found a chance to be with the man she had admired all her life. And for Naruto, the kunoichi's happiness was the most important thing. What a moron, Dadabayo. He ran off again pretending to be a saint, leaving Sakura-chan alone. Naruto exclaimed to himself, frowning in displeasure. I'll scream if you take another step. Sasuke. Haruno, as if in a trance, shook her head convulsively, pitifully begging, but did not wake up. Sakura-chan, Uzumaki gently tugged his friend's hand. Sakura-chan, wake up! Green eyes opened wide, staring at the blonde in fear. Transparent tears appeared in the corners. Sorry for waking you. You were having a nightmare. The young man awkwardly explained the situation. Are you okay? Haruno straightened her back, concentrating on something that had slid down onto the seat of the chair. The sweater belonged to Naruto. She immediately realized this, and hurried to return the item to her friend. Thank you? Sakura nodded awkwardly, ignoring the question. She wasn't used to being cared for by guys her age. Embarrassment was a perfectly logical emotion. After a blissful yawn, a smile played across her face again, as if she was dreaming the sweetest dream, and not replaying memories of past years. An awkward silence worried both of them, but it didn't last long. Oh! Naruto exclaimed loudly, jumping up from his seat. The movement was so abrupt that the massive chair shifted with a screeching sound. His gaze was directed towards the window, which overlooked the entrance gate of the hospital grounds. Sakura turned around, seeing what had caught Uzumaki's attention. Tsunade was leaving the hospital area, with the boy they had dragged in during the day confidently walking next to her. The blonde took off, heading for the exit. Sakura rushed after him. While her teammates ran up the stairs of a rather tall building, Tsunade persistently lectured them. There should be no more blunders on your part. Only I and Sixth will know. Don't even think about telling your parents about what's going on in the future. I'm not a baby, Granny. I understand everything. Shinichika muttered discontentedly, putting his hands in the pockets of his green windbreaker. That burning look again. Tsunade didn't like the fact that another daredevil had appeared, using that nickname that she hated deeply. What Granny? Still as young and good at long, adult, drinking bouts. Granny was heard from behind. Speak of the devil, flashed through the woman's mind. Sakura and Naruto caught up with the fifth. Tsunade-sama, are you leaving the hospital unattended? Haruno asked, breathing heavily. It was hard to keep up with Naruto. I don't have just anyone working in my hospital. Thank God, the woman snapped back. I'll replace you. No. You and Naruto will come with us. I think Kakashi will want to see you. They reached the Hokage residence quickly and silently. Bright stars were scattered over Konoha. A large white moon was shining, replacing the sun, which had completely hidden behind the horizon. Tsunade entered the office alone, slamming the door behind her noisily, arguing that this was a conversation for adults. I think they're not telling us something, Naruto said sullenly, crossing his arms over his chest. Shinichika shifted from foot to foot. The uncertainty in the child's little heart was off the charts. It was comfortable to be near his parents, even if they had not yet met him. But what should he answer if they suddenly asked? How could he get to know them better and fulfill his mission? It felt as if he was again near a huge plowed field, like 2 years ago on a mission to plant a ton of ill-fated potatoes to replenish the village's supplies. What's your name anyway? Naruto stared at his future son with interest. He jinxed it, flashed through his bright head. He doesn't remember, the fool. The mother intervened, as usual correcting the situation. Ah! Uzumaki frowned in disappointment. And what's going on between them? As far as Shinichika could remember, his mother had never thrown such expressions at his father. Apparently, they are not very close. Uzumaki Jr. finished his thought. The next second he realized that without persistence nothing could be achieved. The situation was too bad. Tsunade could help, but only in the moments that were known to her. Shinichika could learn about his personal experiences only from his parents themselves, and from no one else. The boy firmly decided to play the role of an inquisitive child with amnesia, although he had never been particularly curious. My name is Shinichiku, the blonde said decisively, taken aback in an instant. Naruto burst out laughing, and not just giggling, but bursting into laughter down the entire long corridor, clutching his stomach. Is that like a ramen topping or something? Uzumaki Sr. gasped loudly. And who thought of naming a child that? Idiot! Sakura gave the merry fellow a good slap, making an angry face that immediately made the boy feel uneasy. Weren't you the one who wanted to improve relations, huh? Now Shinichika laughed. What an irony, since it was Naruto who gave him that name. The future parents, perplexed, glanced sideways at their son. At the same time, Uzumaki was still rubbing the back of his head, on which Sakura's palm print was proudly displayed. You are so funny. The boy smiled, holding out his hand to the blonde. And what is your name? What could be more ridiculous than asking your own father's name? Naruto Uzumaki. The victim of violence willingly shook the child's hand. Let's get acquainted. Wow, Sixth said in surprise, rubbing his temples with his fingers. And did it really coincide? Tsunade nodded affirmatively. It's too late for big discussions today. Invite him, Tsunade-sama. Kakashi folded his hands, then added, without me for now. The woman removed the silencing seal from the door, looking out into the hallway. 3 pairs of eyes looked at her expectantly, but she looked only at the visitor from the future, briefly ordering him to enter with a single nod. Shinichika followed the 5th, smiling widely at the 6th Hokage as he approached the desk. Good evening, Kakashi-sensei. And you know me too? Hatake asked wearily, to which he received a satisfied nod. The situation greatly amused the young Uzumaki. At first it was strange to meet people he had known all his life, but gradually it turned into childish fun. The reaction gave him particular pleasure. So Six began. Your situation is rather stupid, but at the same time serious. I can't even imagine how we'll return you to the future, and what will happen if you stay here. But let's leave that for tomorrow. Now I would be enthusiastically reading Come Rai by Jiraiya-sama. And not all this. This time, it was the Hokage who removed the seal from the door. You may come in. We didn't have to wait long. Kakashi-sensei, what are you hiding from us, Databeo? The blonde approached the teacher nose to nose, shouting indignantly. Nothing that you couldn't live without. Hatake snapped. After thinking about the situation, I came to an important decision. Naruto, you said that you were bored with your life. So, from this day on, you will have a neighbor. Shinichika beamed. He was placed with his own father, and the proximity could greatly help with the mission given to him by his grandfather. Naruto was not even upset and did not argue. He only glanced sideways at the boy, winking mischievously. You will sleep on the floor. Sakura, show him the village, maybe he'll remember something new. The 6th spoke again. No one paid attention to the sly glint in his eyes except Tsunade. And tomorrow I'll expect you 3 at my place for lunch. You can go now. Yes, Kakashi-sensei. The woman forced a weak smile and knocked on the massive white door. The rapid footsteps of bare feet could be heard from the house. Hanami opened the door. Mommy! The little daughter of the Uzumaki family buried her face in the kunoichi's stomach, wrapping her thin arms around her body. Hello, darling. Her voice trembled, although she tried so hard not to show how bitter she was. We've finally waited for you. A woman of Sakura's age came out onto the threshold. She smiled broadly, brushing her light bangs away from her face. You've been a long time today. We were beginning to think you weren't coming. Darling. The Haruno-ne leaned toward her daughter, placing her hands on her dark shoulders. Go get the backpack. Nodding cheerfully and detaching herself from her mother, she disappeared behind the door of the house. You don't look well. Ino noted, pursing her lips. Is everything okay? My eyes started burning again and my nose started stinging. Shinichika is missing. It's not worth telling the children yet. Maybe we'll find him quickly. Ino wanted to ask a bunch of questions that materialized in her head instantly after hearing this, but she heard footsteps approaching from the house again. So she didn't have time. I'll stop by the shop tomorrow morning. Sakura nodded briefly, wiping away the tears that had appeared, managing to hide it from her daughter. See you tomorrow, little princess. Ino waved to the girl, looking meaningfully into her friend's pair of green eyes as she said goodbye. They were especially sad today. Hanami asked questions about this and that all the way home. Sometimes Sakura was so deep in her thoughts that she had to ask her daughter's questions several times. She didn't ask about her brother until they entered the hallway. The young Uzumaki's powers of observation were amazing. I don't see my brother's sandals. Is he back yet? The little girl asked sadly, staring at her mother. It wasn't surprising that her father wasn't home, considering that Hanami was always the first one to go to bed. But Shinichika was always home by this time. "He's on a mission, my dear," the woman blurted out her prepared answer. There was a sharp pain in her chest. She wanted to believe it so much. What a bastard! Hanami clenched her fists, puffing up comically, like a hamster. "He promised to warn me about long missions. Did you pick up such words from Inogen?" The mother was immediately indignant. "If you continue doing this, I will reconsider the decision to let you go to Aunt Ino after classes at the academy." Hanami gestured to shut her mouth. "I'm silent." The clock hand moved forward one number after another while Sakura looked expectantly at the front door. She imagined her son walking into the hallway. He would take off his shoes and carefully place them in the corner, hug her tenderly, saying that he was just trying to make fun of her poor parents. "I'd give him a good beating," Sakura babbled helplessly, falling asleep at the kitchen table. Tears were streaming down her pale cheeks. "Tuchi-san, 3 large servings of ramen, please!" A cheerful voice boomed throughout the street. "You're such a prankster, Naruto," Sakura said discontentedly, sitting down on a high stool behind the counter in her friend's favorite restaurant. "Kakashi-sensei asked to show us the village, not feed us. You know what I'll do to you if we get into trouble tomorrow." "One thing doesn't interfere with the other, Sakura-chan. Today this place, tomorrow another. That's how we'll become close friends, right, Shina-chan?" The teenager put his hands on the counter, swinging his legs vigorously. He hadn't eaten anything since morning, which his stomach was constantly reminding him of. True. You can't go anywhere on an empty stomach. Wow! Naruto was surprised. If Choji had heard your words, I would have respected him immediately. That's his favorite phrase. Especially since you should go to Ichiraku first. 3 large servings of hot ramen for our best customer, the restaurant owner exclaimed, placing plates of hot food in front of the guests. "Excellent," Uzumaki beamed. "Grandpa, as soon as I become Hokage, I will immediately make Ichiraku the main attraction of Konoha, Databao. As expected from a favorite visitor," the old man replied enthusiastically. Naruto and Shinichika ate half of the portion in a couple of minutes. "You have quite an appetite," Kuruno commented, sipping her noodles. "Finally, I'll treat you, Sakura-chan. You're not paying for the boy." "Of course I'm paying. By the way, did you repay Ino's debt?" "Exactly." Kuruno recalled the hectic morning. "I haven't seen her yet." But Ino appeared right away. "Naruto, Sakura!" A broad palm pulled back the cloth sign with the name of the restaurant, letting in a gorgeous blonde. That's what Shinichika considered her. Inogen's mother was even more beautiful in her youth. "Ino, Choji!" Naruto exclaimed, greeting his friends. "What are you doing here?" "I wanted some noodles, but I decided to invite Choji too, to avoid further arguments." Ino giggled. "I would never forgive you for such a betrayal." The big guy chuckled, plopping down on a high chair. "Who is this young man?" Yamanaka noted to the blonde. "The culprit of this morning's commotion," Sakura answered cheerfully, pushing away her empty plate. "My name is Shinichiku." "Nice to meet you." The embarrassment from the sight of the beautiful woman did not leave the young Uzumaki. "God bless your parents who named you after food," Choji blurted out admiringly, folding his arms. Shinichiku was about to start a monologue about how he wasn't named after food, but because ramen was his father's favorite dish, and his name was a talisman for him, but Ino interrupted him. And the boy realized in time that these were unnecessary details. And anyway, he didn't remember anything from the script. And what a handsome man, too. The blonde smiled, making the young Uzumaki blush. "Don't push him." Sakura looked at her future son tenderly, taking on his tension. He's had a hard day. How he dreamed of hugging his young mother now, begging for forgiveness. After all, he understood how much she was suffering there, in the future. He had disappeared at the wrong time. Uzumaki, being pregnant, was especially sensitive. Extra worries were contraindicated. "Well, Naruto." Choji decisively slammed his fists on the table. "Who's going to eat more this time? Lie down on the bed today? I think it's hard for you now." Uzumaki muttered shortly, spreading the mattress on the floor. Thanks, Dad. Shinichika bit his tongue, realizing in time that he had almost screwed up. Yes, getting used to it would be even harder than he had thought at first. Naruto didn't pay attention, only adding, "My old clothes are in the closet on the bottom shelf. You are from the Uzumaki clan, as I understand, so you can carry them around, if you want." The blonde had never lived with anyone, and friends never came to visit him. He did not know how to interact with people within the confines of his apartment, especially when it came to a child. "Thank you," the boy responded gratefully, untying the knot at the back of his head. The oppressive awkwardness was straining him. Shinichika lay down on the bed, pulling the blanket up to his neck. There was no time to waste. Young Uzumaki began gathering information. "Tell me, Naruto," he began quietly. "Are you and Sakura together? It's so weird to call your parents by their first names. Did you like Sakura-chan or something?" Uzumaki Sr. shouted threateningly across the room. "No," the blonde chuckled. "I noticed that you were looking at her in a special way. It's all very complicated." Naruto snapped, rolling to the left side. "I won't leave you alone until you tell me." The no less stubborn son insisted to his father. Well, Naruto gave in, exhaling loudly. "Sakura-chan has loved one guy for a long time, ever since the academy. And I'm hopelessly in love with her. Also since the same time. But they treat me differently. More like a best friend." Naruto was lost in his thoughts, instantly becoming sad, but after 30 seconds he rolled over again, shouting, "That's it, leave me alone, Dadabayo. I'm going to bed. So that's what caused me to disappear. Just some guy." Naruto pressed the door handle with a trembling hand, stepping into the hallway, flooded with the bright shimmer of the dawn sun. The body was limp from fatigue and weakly yielded to any confident movements. Among the bright colors in which the kitchen facades were executed, Sakura slept, her hands folded limply on the table. Pink hair hid almost her entire face, which even in sleep reflected anxiety. But she slept soundly. The rather loud slam of the door did not make it even flinch. The blonde's heart sank painfully, he wanted to scream so much. The man had found himself in different situations that made him cry, suffer, sympathize, but this had never happened in his life. He wanted to howl from pain, but his blue eyes did not let a single drop of tears through, so strong was Uzumaki Naruto's willpower. The seventh Hokage pulled the fleecy blanket off the sofa and quietly, almost on tiptoe, approached his wife, carefully covering her shoulders with his shaking hands. The woman shuddered, her eyes wide open, and grabbed the hand of the man standing behind her. Her heart skipped a beat, but the hope in her eyes faded a second later when she saw her husband behind her. "You're back," Uzumaki whispered, rubbing her eyes as if tired. "I wanted to take you to bed," Naruto said, flicking the switch on the kettle and sitting down on the chair next to the kunoichi. "I thought you were fast asleep. I dreamed that Shina-chan came home," Sakura said, smiling sadly. "Did you manage to find out anything?" The man didn't want to say these words, because he understood the state of his beloved woman perfectly well and knew that she would not survive if they lost their child. With an effort, Naruto shook his head wordlessly. This was enough for Sakura to understand everything. Both were silent for a long time, listening to the water boiling in the kettle. There were too many thoughts in each of their heads to say anything. And when the switch clicked, the question sounded. "Have you come to rest?" No. The man took out 2 glasses, pouring coffee, and added a couple of teaspoons of sugar, as usual, to one of them. "I came to check on you. Shikamaru and the guys are still combing the forest. All they found was traces of the use of the Rasengan. No signs of battle." Sakura's face sank. She felt completely empty inside. She wanted to know every little detail, but at the same time, every word from her husband's mouth dealt more and more blows. "I sent a hawk to Sasuke. I'm sure he won't refuse help, he'll start searching in." "Naruto." Sakura interrupted the blonde. "Don't go." There was no answer. The man put the mug back on the table and, easily lifting the woman into his arms, crossed the kitchen and the long staircase leading to the second floor. Entering the bedroom, which was opposite his daughter's room, Naruto kicked the door so that the youngest Uzumaki wouldn't hear a single word. Sakura gently lowered herself onto the bed, pulling her husband along with her, who clearly had no intention of lying down. But under the pressure of the kunoichi he had to. They still looked at each other tenderly, lovingly, but now they didn't want to laugh or talk about the wonderful feeling, only to remain silent, barely holding back bitter tears. "Don't leave me." The woman's fingers combed through her blonde curls. Sakura didn't take her pleading gaze away from her beloved blue eyes. "You'll get some sleep, and we'll go look for Shinichika together. Please, Naruto." Uzumaki almost gave in to his wife's desperate pleas, but his attention was drawn to the door that suddenly opened, letting the child into the room. Sakura covered her mouth with her hand in horror, seeing her daughter, whose eyes were filled with bitter tears at the speed of light. Hanami sniffled and, still in a sleepy voice, asked a question to which either of the parents had an answer. "Where is Shina-chan?" The smell of tuna slowly but surely seeped from the kitchen into the bedroom, filling Naruto's lungs. The first thought in his sleep was the guess that he was imagining it, and he, brushing everything aside, rolled over onto his side, smacking his lips sweetly. But the wonderful aroma filled the walls of the small, rather empty room even more persistently. The blonde sat up and yawned long, stretching with pleasure. The sound of oil sizzling in a frying pan reached his ears. His gaze immediately rushed to the bed where his new friend had settled in, dispelling any guesses that he was conjuring. In the kitchen, the bewilderment grew, so the young man pulled back the blanket and crawled on all fours, wiping the dust off the floor with his knees, where a rag had been crying for a long time. Naruto felt like the ninja that legends speak of, cautiously peeking out from behind the wall, from where such wonderful and unusual sounds were coming. But the girl did not go unnoticed. "Good morning." The kunoichi didn't even glance in his direction, deftly twisting her spatula, turning over the omelette bathing in oil. She had long since gotten used to her friend's quirks, and rarely paid attention to it, although sometimes it was impossible to do without a good slap. "Sakura-chan?" The guy quickly got up from the floor, scolding himself 1,000 times for his stupid behavior in front of the object of his adoration, really hoping that the girl did not notice what an absurd pose he was standing in. "And what are you doing here?" "I decided to wake up early and make sure Shina-chan doesn't go hungry. You should have stuffed him with ramen again, I know that." Haruno snorted discontentedly. It was open, if anything. Naruto's confusion knew no bounds. Sakura had said everything exactly, and this added to the awkwardness even more. "It smells wonderful!" the blonde exclaimed, looking at the neat onigiri, arranged in a row, and the omelette, which had just plopped down on the plate, from which curling smoke was emanating. But the embarrassment went beyond what was permissible when the guy realized that for the first time he would try food from his beloved girl, and in general, prepared for him in general, with the exception of the grandfather from Ichiraku Ramen. Of course. "Thank you, Sakura-chan." It was rare for Sakura to feel shy. And now, as she blushed, the thought that this was her first time cooking for someone else stuck in her head. "You're welcome. It's not hard for me," she waved it off, skillfully hiding her true emotions. But really, Naruto had matured. Before, he would have just pounced on the food alone, without waiting for anyone. Now the guy looked at her shyly with a grateful smile, honestly waiting for Shinichika, who was snoring in the next room. Maybe his eccentricities showed his true trust in a person? Sakura couldn't answer this question. She only looked at him gratefully, replaying in her head the moments where he sacrificed his life for her. Cooking was a trifle compared to such feats. "What smells so good?" Young Uzumaki broke the silence, sleepily rubbing his eyes. "Itadakimasu." Uzumaki Sr. shamelessly ignored his neighbor's question, stuffing a whole triangle of rice with filling into his mouth. But the enjoyment of the food did not last long. The next second, Naruto's dark face turned green, and his eyes were directed at Sakura, who had already wrinkled her nose, rubbing her strong fists. Having swallowed the kunoichi's cooking with force, the guy pulled on a weak smile, although at that moment he just wanted to spit everything he had eaten back into the plate. "How delicious, Sakura-chan. I'm not hungry anymore. It's so filling, surprisingly." He squeezed out in the hope that he would get away with it, but it was not to be. Shinichika noticed Naruto's hidden displeasure. He immediately shoved a piece of omelette into his mouth, grimaced, and spat it back into the plate with a loud "Ugh! Is it really his mother, since she even managed to ruin the omelette?" Sakura was furious, judging by the way her right eyelid twitched. Her fist hit the table hard, breaking through the hardwood. Her eyes flashed. Be thankful that it wasn't you, Uzumaki Naruto. You're late, the sixth Hokage calmly remarked as his former charges entered the office. They were Konoha's new little problem. One tardiness is excusable, I think. Or have you forgotten how we waited for you every time you helped the old lady across the street? Uzumaki said brazenly, approaching the desk. Kakashi didn't even blink. Naruto's ardor had long since become familiar to everyone. I won't delay. We continue our investigation into your life in the past, Shinichiku. Hatake began without a trace of embarrassment. As soon as you remember anything, report it immediately. Sakura and Naruto are now your mentors. You will spend 2 hours each with him. Try to refresh his memories of fighting skills. Train, remember what you have forgotten. Are we his nannies now? Naruto chuckled discontentedly. It turns out that way. By the way, there is a new mission for you. Tomorrow you need to go to the bridge of Heaven and Earth. The locals complain that there are small bandits there. Take Shinichiku with you, let the kid have a look. What? Naruto indignantly yelled at the whole residence. What rank of mission is this? Generally, rank C, but I specifically assigned rank B for you. The sixth answered calmly, spreading his arms out to the sides. Sakura-chan and I are jounin'. What the hell are you, petty thugs, Databayo? Naruto yelled, bracing his hands on the tabletop. Hatake just shrugged, arguing this stupidity with the lack of shinobi in the village. And anyway, you're not a jounin yet, Naruto. Then he shamelessly showed the company the door, assuring them that he had too much work. Like, come by tomorrow morning, before the mission. A brilliant plan matured in the head of the young Uzumaki. Sorry, Shina-chan. Sakura began as the trio left the residence grounds. I have an evening shift at the hospital today. I won't be able to train with you. You'll have to wander around Konoha. Naruto picked up, starting to complain. I can't either. I didn't open a single book the entire day yesterday, and tomorrow I'll have to go to that hidden grass village, which will take at least 2 days. At this rate, I'll be Hokage by the time I'm 40. Shinichiku was not upset by these statements at all. Quite the contrary. Grandfather Sixth was completely out of his mind if he ordered his parents to find out his abilities, among which the main ones were Rasengan and healing techniques. He would immediately let them down. What should they show him? Taijutsu? And sending shinobi of different levels on a mission was very strange and unreasonable. Naruto waved his hand and disappeared around the corner of the next street. Sakura didn't hesitate either. You can walk with me to the hospital if you want. The girl smiled affably. But Shinichiku shook his head. I have important business. See you later, Sakura, he exclaimed, disappearing after Naruto, leaving a bewildered Haruno alone among the colorful stalls of local merchants. How similar they are. The blonde rushed from place to place, wandering around all the lotteries and pubs of the village, asking the owners if the fifth legendary loser had visited them. But everyone threw up their hands, shaking their heads. Shinichiku had already lost hope of carrying out his plan, dragging himself among the noisy crowd of onlookers, when his attention was drawn to the loud, clearly dissatisfied voice of Tsunade, coming from a small shop with a dubious sign. No lose lottery. Without thinking twice, the teenager quietly entered inside, heading in the direction from which various curses were coming. But the former Hokage was already being led out by 2 big guys, whose faces remained stony even after receiving slaps from the woman. Shinichiku hurried out after them. Seeing a familiar face, Tsunade raised her hand above herself, in which was a small rubber bracelet, and screamed angrily. Fucking swindlers. I hope Orochimaru lets you do experiments on me. Senju screamed, throwing a piece of rubber at the already closed door of the shop. Can you imagine? They put up a sign like that, and then they give children's toys to the 5th Hokage herself. The woman was indignant. She had never had any luck with this. After each loss, the villagers were forced to listen to angry tirades, and this time was no exception. But the teenager was also used to seeing the woman like this, only there, in the future. He had long ago discovered a method to calm her down. Granny, you need a drink. Tsunade froze mid-sentence, not finishing her sentence about forbidding the shop owner to visit her hospital for free. But the kid was absolutely right. Only a drink would calm the noisy hurricane in a woman's heart. You speak correctly. She nodded, spitting in the direction of the ill-fated eatery and dragging Shinichika by the hand to a place where she was always welcome. The izakaya was nearby. Just like in the gambling establishments, she was also welcome there, but in a kind way, because the generous Senju drank a lot and liked to leave tips. The guests were seated at a table, and a bottle of sake and 2 bowls were immediately brought. Apparently, they were counting on the child to drink, but Tsunade shook her fist in front of Uzumaki's nose, making it clear that he was not old enough yet. He didn't really want to. Shinichika waited until the woman had half a bottle in her. Fortunately, she got drunk quickly, even if it didn't last long, and began ingratiatingly. I need your help, Granny. Today you will organize a meeting of my parents in this place. Tsunade raised an eyebrow as she filled her sakazuki with more alcohol. And how do you think I will do this? For Shinichiku, the day flew by unnoticed, considering that he had to spend it with an inveterate drunkard. But she readily responded to his idea, sending the boy to look for Naruto, and she gave the order to prepare a table in the VIP zone, heading for Sakura. Uzumaki Sr. didn't have to look for long. As the boy thought, he ended up in Ichiraku. Naruto, Grandma told you to come see her at izakaya, he said immediately, entering the bright room. Shina-chan? The blonde looked up from his bowl of noodles in surprise. No. Did the old woman see a drinking buddy in me or something? Sakura will be there too. Uzumaki Jr. started with his trump cards, leaving the elder no options for refusal. Naruto said goodbye to the restaurant owner and followed his new friend. Tsunade didn't hesitate either, taking her successor straight from her shift. Sakura smelled the fumes, rolling her green eyes unnoticed by Tsunade, but obediently followed her mentor. The owner of izakaya, sensing that the business smelled of big profits, prepared a separate room for his favorite customer in the best possible way. The table was groaning with the amount of snacks and drinks. And about this, the 2 kunoichi who entered had different opinions. Sakura gasped in delight. It was a very good decision to come here, because her stomach was already composing melodies, notifying her of the emptiness in her stomach. Tsunade, on the other hand, gloomily looked at the table and the satisfied faces of the young shinobi, imagining what damage had already been done to her wallet. Shinichika had not filled his stomach in vain. The 5th glared menacingly with a pair of coffee-colored eyes, wordlessly ordering him to follow her, and he had predicted these actions, and was not upset. Tsunade should not sit here for long either. The parents eventually need to be left alone. Young Uzumaki wished the future parents a good evening and left, closing the massive door of the VIP room behind him. The 5th Hokage paid the owner in advance, mentally cursing everyone around, including those for whom everything was started. A question hit her slightly sobered head. Why is she doing this? Shinichika deftly persuaded the drunk woman to fork over a bunch of greens, and she easily fell for it. But now her head was missing only one answer. You little rascal, answer me. Senju began quietly, hiccuping periodically. Why am I treating them if I'm going to leave in half an hour? Do you think they've never had a drink together? My mother told me about this place. Shinichika sadly indulged in memories. This is where my father kissed her for the first time. Commentary on 5. Young Pimp. Sorry for the long delay. Thank you so much for your feedback, dear ones. Only your support motivates me to write, despite the terrible migraine. Notes: Izakaya is a type of Japanese informal drinking establishment. Sakazuki is a vessel for drinking's sake. ==========================================================================================================================After a long time, the sobbing died down. From behind the door decorated with pink flowers, only soft sobs could now be heard. Please, flower, come out! Sakura babbled wearily, settling down right on the floor in front of the children's room. The woman kept begging her daughter to come out, but Hanami didn't answer. She only cried bitterly, tormenting her mother's already broken heart. The youngest Uzumaki didn't even respond to her father's requests, although she loved him more than anything in the world. Naruto could only stroke his wife's hand now, waiting for the moment when his daughter would finally give in and open the door, although the best solution to the problem now seemed to be a broken door. Against the background of what had happened the day before, it was unbearable to hear his daughter's sobs and not know where the reason for her crying was now. The doorbell rang from the lower floor. Sakura hurried down, leaving her husband to vainly lure their daughter out of the room. Anzu Uchiha, Shinichika's teammate, stood at the entrance to the Uzumaki house. Her face, like her father's, was always emotionless, but not today. As soon as the door opened, the brunette blurted out, "Sakura-sama, is Lord Hokage home?" "Yes." The woman was taken aback by such zeal on the part of the young Uchiha, letting her into the house. "Come in. I'm sorry about what happened." Anzu began hesitantly, pulling off her sandals. "Lee-sensei told us that Shina-chan was missing. I hope you didn't spread the information?" A crease appeared between her pink eyebrows. "No, I didn't even tell my mother. Although, it seems she knows. Of course, she's also participating in the search for our son." Uzumaki chuckled and called loudly, "Naruto!" Seventh didn't keep us waiting long, immediately coming down at his wife's call. Sakura hurried to replace him at the post of calming her daughter down. A child in such a state can't be left. "Anzu?" Seventh smiled affably. He was always glad to see his best friend's eldest daughter. "Did something happen?" "Hokage-sama, I would like to join the Shinichika search party," the girl said almost in a whisper, narrowing her dark eyes framed by long eyelashes. "I can't just sit and wait for something to become clear." There was genuine sympathy in the voice. Just one look was enough to understand how much the Uchiha was worried about her friend. Therefore, Naruto immediately made a decision, nodding affirmatively. "Just wait a little. Hanami heard our conversation about her son's disappearance, and has been crying in a locked room for over an hour. As soon as she comes out, we'll hurry to the others." "You weren't trying to trick her?" Anzu realized immediately, but the man apparently didn't understand her, so she continued. "Shadow cloning, Hokage-sama." Naruto slapped his forehead in shock. It was amazing that he hadn't thought of such a clever move before. He needed to calm his daughter down by telling her that everything was fine with her brother. The resourcefulness of the Uchiha clan never ceases to amaze me. Imagine Sakura's amazement when she finally heard the cherished, "Mom, I'm home." Her heart seemed to stop, the oxygen in her lungs ran out, and 1,000 goosebumps ran through her body. Uzumaki rushed to the railings opening up a view of the first floor, and drooped as she went, holding back a cry of pain that was just itching to get out. The chakra belonged to Naruto. It was good that Hanami was still too young to recognize it. "Flower, Shina-chan has returned home!" Sakura exclaimed with feigned joy, clutching her clenched heart. Hanami flew out of the nursery, wiping the wet paths as she went, and crossed the stairs, crashing into her false brother. A wide smile was on her face. "You finally came." The little girl hugged the shadow clone tighter. "Why didn't you warn me that you'd be gone for so long, you shameless one?" "Sorry, Hanami, I was in such a hurry this morning that I completely forgot," the false brother responded. Even the clone's heart felt an unpleasant pang at that moment. "Anzu-chan, are you here too?" The youngest Uzumaki jumped happily upon seeing her favorite. The little girl had become very attached to her older brother's friend. It was no secret that Uchiha had long been secretly in love with Shinichika, and Hanami had been pushing her brother towards his friend in every possible way. She hadn't even let any other girl near him. "Have breakfast with us, Anzu," Sakura called to the table. It was so nice to finally see her son's face. Uzumaki was ready to give everything she had for this small wish, but the truth hit below the belt. This was just a clone created by her husband to calm his daughter, nothing more. The woman quickly turned away to the stove so that no one would see the hot tears flowing down her tender cheeks. The small room was filled with a buzz created by Tsunade and Naruto, who kept making stupid jokes and laughing loudly. In such a short time, Uzumaki had drunk a fair amount of alcohol, which was easy to tell from his flushed face and unsteady movements. In another situation, Sakura would have been pretty angry at such behavior, but the alcohol had its own effect, forcing the kunoichi to watch her friend sitting next to her with a stupid smile. In essence, the girl was happy about this ending, because it was truly happy. Especially for her. Naruto had finally gotten rid of the promise he had given to Sakura. Nothing anymore obliged him to rush around the world, and so dangerously, and invariably sacrifice his life. Sasuke was on their side again, and Sakura, even now, when alcohol had completely turned off her consciousness, thought about this cold, but such a necessary person, dreaming of a quick meeting. So, Tsunade poured the last drop straight from the bottle into herself, getting up from the table. I think I'll go. And you, just dare to leave all these riches without attention, I'll skin you alive. After seeing the fifth off, Naruto glanced in bewilderment at Haruno's bottle, which was only half empty. Sakura-chan, I can't drink it all by myself. I know. The kunoichi smiled awkwardly, filling the sakazuki to the brim. We'll have to drink. I wouldn't be surprised if Tsunade-sama comes to see us in an hour. She's not one to be trifled with. You're still much more dangerous. The blonde snorted, realizing his mistake on the fly and already preparing himself for a strong slap. But Sakura didn't even flinch in his direction. Well, it's time to drink to the end of the Great War, and of course, to the return of Sasuke-kun. The vessel in the girl's hands flew into the air, splashing sake. Naruto's mood plummeted, shattering into pieces on the floor. He never thought that talking about his best friend in front of Sakura would be so unwelcome. Do you love him? Uzumaki's sad voice sounded. It was as if it wasn't him speaking. Even the temperamental Naruto would never allow himself to say such words out loud. Naruto! Sakura blushed, bashfully looking away with her green eyes, but her face took on a more serious look, her pink eyebrows frowned. Well, I don't even know what that word means, actually. Sasuke-kun has always been something unattainable, unearthly for me. And now I'm waiting for the next meeting. Maybe at least this time I'll go with him. Haruno finally turned to her friend, who was staring into her eyes. They were too close now. Why are you looking at me like that? Sakura swallowed nervously, not looking away from the big blue eyes that were looking at her insolently and insistently. These actions were too contradictory for Naruto Uzumaki. The tension was growing with each passing second. Time to go home, flashed through the girl's head, and Sakura was about to stand up, but Naruto grabbed her hand tenaciously, with special tenderness, shortening the already tiny distance between them. The girl felt someone else's hot breath. They were so close to each other, and for the first time she saw the gray specks around the pupil. This is what love is, Sakura. The mind went cloudy. Naruto Uzumaki brazenly pressed himself to the much-desired lips, letting go of the rules of decency, surrendering himself completely to the tender feeling. The kiss was so clumsy, but poetic. No words could replace what he was conveying now with this. Sakura seemed to be immersed in a boiling cauldron. She felt neither embarrassment nor disgust. Only the velvety touch of the hot lips of the previously ridiculous Uzumaki, who had brazenly crossed the boundaries of what was permitted. The man's arms wrapped around her thin waist, powerfully pressing her fragile body even closer, finally making Sakura's heart beat wildly in time with his own. Haruno gave in. She closed her eyes and responded to the kiss, running her slender fingers through soft blonde locks. The girl's entire makeup sparkled, but the next second it went out. Sakura smoothly lowered her hands from the back of his head along his hot neck, protruding collarbones, and finally stopped on the guy's chest. With an effort, the kunoichi timidly pushed Naruto away from herself, as if she wanted to interrupt this stupid outburst of passion. A pair of blue eyes languidly looked at her with a bit of embarrassment, but the impudence did not disappear anywhere. This was wrong. She loved another person, and Naruto was her friend, and always had been. Haruno jumped up from her seat, wanting to quickly leave this ill-fated establishment and forget about what had happened. However, the blonde stopped her again, grabbing her wrist. The alcohol was gradually loosening its shackles. Naruto didn't know what to do, but he couldn't let go either. He didn't want to. Not now. To disgrace himself so completely. Swallowing nervously, the guy mumbled uncertainly. Sakura-chan, I've been. He wanted to say these words so much, but his tongue seemed to have turned to stone, not yielding to his master's command. I want to say that I love. Naruto-kun? The events carried the teammates so far into space that none of them heard the noise of the door opening, and only a quiet female voice brought the friends down to earth. Hinata looked at what was happening in the small room of izakaya in surprise, and Sakura took advantage of this, forcefully breaking free from Uzumaki's tenacious grip, leaving the institution that she hated from that day on. Sakura was not expected in the Hokage's office, so it was decided to begin without her. Kakashi explained the essence of the mission in detail, causing a storm of negativity in Naruto, but, as usual, continued to speak calmly, not paying any attention to his discontent. "Take care of the young man." Sixth concluded his monologue, unceremoniously and habitually showing the boys the door. Shinichika wondered what had happened that night that his father had been so incredibly silent today. It was unusual for him. No matter how much the boy asked, the blonde remained silent, waving his hand in annoyance. The ground shook, dust rose in a column, and soon Rock Lee appeared before Uzumaki, literally running on his hands. "Naruto!" the brunette exclaimed, looking from under his brows. "Hey, bushy brow. Are you training? Is this Lee-sensei?" Shinichika thought, involuntarily opening his mouth. "Yes, for myself and Guy-sensei," Rock Lee replied, lifting himself off the ground and clapping his hands loudly. "You have a new friend? This is Shina-chan, we're going on a mission together. Shina-chan, this is Bushy Brow. You'll meet. By the way, have you seen Sakura? So young and charged. May the power of youth be with you," Rock Lee thought. "I met Sakura-san only last night. She ran somewhere so fast that I couldn't catch up. Forgive me. Naruto-kun and Shina-kun, another 500 laps around the village, in the name of our youth." The thick-browed man disappeared in the same column of dust as he appeared. "He's a striking guy," Shinichika noted. Naruto had hoped to meet Sakura at the main gate. And there she stood, waiting patiently. "Good morning." The girl smiled broadly, clearly avoiding the gaze of blue eyes. From the dark circles under her eyes, it was obvious that Haruno had hardly slept at night. But Naruto didn't know the reason, coming up with various theories. "Well then," Shinichika punched the air cheerfully. "Let's go!" Comment to 6. "Let's go. Please leave your feedback, Cherry Blossom. == 7. Order of Justice == I can't do this anymore. Shinichika whined mockingly as the team crossed the border between Konoha and the Hidden Grass Village. It was completely dark outside, the wind became colder, trying to get under clothes in gusts, running goosebumps over hot skin. Sakura stopped and nodded in agreement. "That's right. We'll be there tomorrow, but now it's better to rest. Especially since you're completely exhausted, Shina-chan," the girl smiled tenderly. "And you're a good boy, Hardy. And this place is great for a rest stop." "I didn't utter a single peep either, Sakura-chan," Naruto said indignantly, instantly making Haruno angry. "You survived the war, stupid, and he is still a child." There seemed to be no awkwardness between them. Uzumaki was indeed not embarrassed, considering his actions correct, but Sakura, who hid her true emotions too well, tried to have as little contact with the blonde as possible. Shinichika opened his backpack, taking out 2 sleeping bags, and again raised his eyebrows theatrically. "I forgot the third bag," the boy muttered absent-mindedly, although he had deliberately put it out in the morning. Haruno didn't even bat an eyelid. "Sleep with Naruto. But the second one is small." "Sakura," Shinichika insisted, knowing in advance that he would not be able to argue with his mother. Uzumaki had already imagined how he and his beloved were huddled in a tight sleeping bag, and it was so cold outside, and now she was pressing her whole body against him, breathing heavily, putting her hand on his neck, and... "It's okay, make room." Haruno delivered her verdict, mercilessly dispelling the blonde's rosy dreams. "You can lie down with me." "No, no." The boy shook his head, seeing his father's gaze gaping angrily in the darkness. "Indeed, let's make room. I'll go get some firewood." Naruto muttered disappointedly, hiding behind a large tree. The wood, shrouded in scarlet tongues of flame, creaked cheerfully in the night. The wind died down. Only the rustling of leaves could be heard, revealing a view of the blue sky, across which twinkling stars were scattered. After much fidgeting and quiet cursing, the Uzumaki finally fell asleep, allowing Sakura to fully connect with the spirit of nature. The morning conversation with her friend could not be removed from her head. Wait, Ino babbled, stunned. "Who kissed you?" Ino! Sakura's face instantly turned pink. I'm telling you, I don't have much time. I didn't come to your shop instead of the Hokage's office so that you could ask me to repeat every phrase. The blonde put her palms to her cheeks and squealed loudly. And what about you? Well, green eyes darted around the flower shop, darting from one flower to another. I didn't want to say these words out loud, but I still had to. I kissed back. But I was drunk, Ino. It was just a mistake that I didn't want. The friend smiled slyly, narrowing her eyes. I wonder where Sasuke-kun is hanging out when such passions are boiling here. Don't make fun of me! Did you know that when people are drunk, they most often show their inner selves by doing things that their inhibitions when sober prevent them from doing? Yamanaka was genuinely amused by the situation. I pushed him away, but only later. Haruno got angry, pouting her velvet lips amusingly. You know very well that there is only room in my heart for Sasuke, and Naruto and I are good friends. So stop seeing him as just a friend, Sakura. Try to look at the situation from a different angle, without repeating this all the time, Uchiha. Have you ever perceived him as a man? No, from the very beginning you labeled him as just a friend. Remember who was there for you when things were bad? The girl frowned. Something inside her did not allow her to accept the simple truth, as if some feelings had been locked in a huge chest and the key was hidden deep, deep in her heart. Answer, Haruno Sakura. Yamanaka commanded menacingly. Naruto. He was always there for me in times of sorrow and joy. The kunoichi shook her head. Everything inside was seething. It will be extremely difficult for me to view him in any other way, Ino. So start trying to overcome yourself today. The blonde took her friend's hands. You know very well how Naruto treats you. But it won't always be like this. A person gives in sooner or later. Sakura turned her head to the side. Naruto was peacefully snoring behind the blazing fire. The guy who constantly irritated her with his antics, and at the same time a strong shinobi who came to the rescue, who laughed and cried with her. Haruno loved and accepted all this, but how exactly? Yesterday evening in a conversation with a friend forced Sakura to doubt the justice of her feelings towards the blonde. The kunoichi exhaled loudly. Sleep did not come at all, so Sakura got up and, having cast a quick glance at the guys, went to wander around the neighborhood. After a 10-minute walk, the girl came across an incredibly beautiful place. A small lake spread its waters, reflecting bright stars in the dark blue surface. A gentle wind dispersed flocks of fireflies, fluttering Haruno's pink locks. Taking a deep breath and finally feeling calm, she shuddered at the crunch of a branch behind her. On alert, she reached for the weapon hidden in her belt pouch, but her worries were in vain. A blonde head and a pair of green eyes sparkling in the night appeared from behind the viridian foliage. The kunoichi relaxed. You can't sleep either? Shinichika settled down on a large rock next to Harun, tucking his legs under him. Yes. I thought you were already asleep. For 2 minutes they were both silent, listening to the rustling of leaves and the love serenades of crickets hidden in the tall grass. Shinichika began worriedly. It seems like something is bothering you? Is it that noticeable? Sakura glanced at the boy, hoping that the older Uzumaki wasn't as attentive as the younger one. Yeah, a soft smile appeared in the darkness. I realized it this morning. You can share it if you want, it will make it easier. Sakura looked up at the sky. The thing is, I've liked one guy since childhood. I've kept these feelings in my heart all my life, but recently something has made me doubt whether I like him so much. How does he feel about you? Shinichika asked each question hesitantly, afraid to scare away his mother's sincerity with excessive curiosity. The girl suddenly burst into loud laughter, fully realizing that she couldn't answer this question. At least because her main meetings with Sasuke were before the war, when the young man viciously rejected her again and again. Nothing, she finally answered, smiling sadly at her son. He was always cold to me, even though he knew about my feelings. But just recently a small hope appeared for our relations to improve. What a guy, Uzumaki muttered with disgust, amazed that his mother could like such a person. That's how Sasuke-kun is. What? The green eyes became twice as wide, and the jaw literally dropped. This guy is Sasuke? My parents' best friend? No way! The blonde's head was racing. He never expected to hear that it was his girlfriend's father who was the reason he had to move to this dimension. Why are you so surprised? Sakura looked at the boy in confusion. Nothing. Shinichika laughed, scratching the back of his head in confusion. It's just that his name is kind of stupid, that's all. So why do you doubt your feelings? You see, Sakura didn't ask any more questions. Shinichika deftly managed to change the subject. There's a person who's always been by my side. I know that he's liked me for a long time, maybe he's even in love with me. I've never refused help, taking it for granted, selfishly ignoring his true feelings. I think the problem is in my perception. Even though I really want to change my views, I can't look at him differently. I'm probably worse than Sasuke-kun, because Naruto has always been by my side, and we know each other very well, while Sasuke doesn't really know me, just like I don't know him, really. A lot of water has flowed under the bridge since the academy, after all. Sakura gazed thoughtfully into the distance for a while, but the next moment she blushed, realizing that she had let it slip when she named the person she was talking about, and she abruptly turned her head towards Shinichika. Just dare to tell him! The phrase did not sound threatening, but rather somehow fearful. Don't worry, I immediately understood who you were talking about. Uzumaki giggled mischievously, asking the question ingratiatingly. What happened last night? It would seem that there was nowhere else to blush, but Haruno seemed to be boiling, and her lungs were running out of air. There was nothing there, she blurted out. It's time for you to go to bed, it's not childish